I'm
John
Jeremy Wade.
Travolta
Today
is
I'm going to
known
be
around
reviewing
the
fishing
world as
scenes.
a man who made people smile. When he danced across movie screens in the late 1970s, he did more than perform. He made people feel young, hopeful, and alive. His smile became a symbol of fun, freedom, and confidence. But long before fame found him, before the bright lights and roaring applause, John Travolta learned something very early in life. Happiness is something you sometimes have to perform, even when you don't feel it inside. He was born on February 18, 1954, in Englewood, New Jersey, into a crowded home filled with noise, pressure, and limited space. He was the youngest of 6 children, which meant attention was rare and privacy almost non-existent. The house was small, the money was tight, and the future was always uncertain. His father, Salvatore Travolta, worked long hours at a tire shop, coming home each night tired, smelling of oil and rubber, carrying the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. His mother, Helen Cecilia Burke, was a former performer who had once dreamed of a life on stage. Though she became a teacher to support the family, her love for acting never faded, and she passed that passion on to her children, especially John. The Travolta home was not a peaceful place. It was loud, busy, and often stressful. Shoes were shared, rooms were crowded, and sleep was often interrupted. Arguments happened, worries were hidden behind forced smiles, and bills never stopped coming. From a young age, John learned that if he wanted to be noticed, he had to earn it. He sang, danced, copied voices, and performed small acts just to make people look at him. Attention became his reward, and performance became his shield. Acting was not just a dream, it was his escape. His mother encouraged his talent, helping him practice and exposing him to theater and performance. But talent alone could not quiet the feeling that he needed to get out. By his teenage years, John could clearly see the life waiting for him if he stayed. Long hours, constant struggle, and dreams slowly fading away. At just 16 years old, he made a decision that would change everything. He dropped out of high school and left home, not out of anger, but out of desperation. He believed that if he stayed, his dream would die. With only about $150, a suitcase, and belief in himself, he moved to New York City. The city did not welcome him. It was cold, harsh, and unforgiving. John slept on couches, chairs, and sometimes floors. He skipped meals, walked instead of taking buses, and faced rejection after rejection at auditions. Casting directors barely looked at him. He was too young, too unknown, too invisible. There were days when he questioned everything. Yet even during those hardest moments, John kept one thing alive: the smile. He learned to look confident even when he felt afraid. He learned to stay positive even when his stomach was empty. Slowly, small roles came. Then, bigger ones. Television helped him break through, and soon, Hollywood noticed. When Saturday Night Fever arrived, John Travolta became a global star overnight. The world saw confidence, charm, and energy. But behind the scenes, the habit he learned as a child remained. Hide the pain, show the smile. That was the beginning of his double life, the public face of joy, and the private struggle he never shared. As John Travolta's career grew, so did his public image. He became one of the most recognizable faces in the world. Movie after movie turned him into a symbol of happiness and success. People believed he had everything: fame, money, admiration, and opportunity. But while the cameras followed his career, his personal life quietly carried a very different story. In 1991, John married actress Kelly Preston, the love of his life. Their relationship was warm, playful, and deeply supportive. Together, they created a family that seemed strong and happy. To the public, they were a perfect Hollywood couple. But behind closed doors, their lives would soon be shaped by tragedy. Their first son, Jet, was born in 1992. From early on, Jet faced health challenges. John and Kelly protected him fiercely, choosing privacy over attention. In 2009, tragedy struck when Jet passed away suddenly during a family vacation. The loss shattered John Travolta. No parent is prepared to lose a child, and the pain left a mark that never healed. Yet once again, John returned to the public eye. He smiled at events, gave interviews, and continued working. The world saw strength. Inside, he carried grief. Kelly later spoke about how deeply the loss affected him, how quiet he became, how heavy the silence felt at home. But life did not pause. The world expected John Travolta to continue being John Travolta. Years later, another blow arrived. Kelly Preston was diagnosed with cancer. This time, the battle was private. The couple chose to keep her illness out of the spotlight. For 2 years, John lived a life split in two. In public, he appeared normal, attending events, smiling, promoting projects. In private, he was watching the love of his life slowly fade. In 2020, Kelly Preston passed away. John's world collapsed again. 2 of the people he loved most were gone. His home grew quieter. Photographs replaced voices. Memories replaced laughter. Yet still, he spoke to the public with grace and calm. He thanked fans, honored Kelly's strength, and kept his pain controlled. This was not weakness, it was survival. Over the years, John also lost his mother and others close to him. Loss became a repeating pattern in his life, and yet, the roles he played on screen often demanded joy, humor, and light. This contrast created his true double life. While audiences remembered him dancing, smiling, and entertaining, John Travolta was learning how to live with absence. He was not hiding scandal or secrets. He was hiding sorrow. He believed that grief was personal, something not meant to be performed. And so, he carried it alone. Many fans never realized how much he had endured. They only saw the surface, never the quiet nights or the empty rooms. Fame did not protect him from pain. It only made it easier for the world to misunderstand him. Today, John Travolta stands as more than a movie star. He is a symbol of endurance. After decades in the spotlight, his career has had highs and lows, comebacks and quiet periods. But through everything, one truth remains: he never stopped showing up. Even after unimaginable loss, he continued working, honoring his family, and staying connected to his fans. His double life was never about deception. It was about balance. The balance between personal pain and public responsibility, between private grief and shared joy. John understood that his work meant something to people. His films helped others escape, laugh, and feel comforted. And so, even when his heart was heavy, he continued to give. That choice is what makes his story powerful. He did not let tragedy define him, nor did he allow fame to erase his humanity. Instead, he lived both lives honestly, even if only one was visible. Over time, fans began to see the man behind the legend. Interviews became softer. Smiles carried depth. Words carried meaning. People realized that John Travolta was not just an entertainer. He was someone who had survived pain without bitterness. His legacy is not only in dance moves or iconic roles, but in quiet strength. He showed that it is possible to continue living, loving, and giving even after loss. That happiness does not mean the absence of pain. It means choosing to move forward despite it. And that is the real truth behind John Travolta's double life. Not a hidden scandal, but a hidden strength. Not secrets, but sacrifice. When the lights turn off and the music fades, what remains is a man who carried more than the world ever knew, and still chose to smile. That is why, even now, decades later, the world continues to watch him, respect him, and love him. Because behind the legend is a human story that speaks to everyone who has ever had to be strong when they felt broken. John Travolta is one of those rare stars whose smile has left a lasting impression on the world. When he appeared on screens in the late 1970s, dancing in films like Saturday Night Fever or acting in Grease, he did more than entertain. He made people feel alive, free, and hopeful. His energy, charm, and charisma were contagious. People across generations watched him and felt joy, as if he could make any difficult day brighter just by being on the screen. But behind that radiant public image, there was a very different story, one that few ever knew. Behind the smiles and dazzling performances was a man who learned, very early in life, that happiness is often something you must show even when you don't feel it inside. John Joseph Travolta was born on February 18, 1954, in Englewood, New Jersey. He was the youngest of 6 children in a family that had its own challenges. His father, Salvatore Travolta, worked long, grueling hours at a tire shop. He came home tired every evening, smelling of oil and rubber, carrying the burden of providing for a large family. His mother, Helen Cecilia Burke, had once dreamed of life on stage, but reality forced her to become a teacher to support the family. Nevertheless, her love for performance never faded. She encouraged her children to explore the arts, and John's natural talents did not go unnoticed. From an early age, he displayed an uncanny ability to sing, dance, and mimic voices, which not only entertained his family, but also gave him a sense of identity and recognition he rarely got as the youngest child. Growing up in a crowded household meant privacy was limited and attention was scarce. Rooms were shared, shoes were borrowed, and personal space was almost non-existent. Life was loud, busy, and often stressful. Bills piled up, arguments broke out, and the small joys of childhood often felt fleeting. In such an environment, John quickly understood that to be noticed, he had to perform. Acting, singing, or dancing were not only ways to express himself, they were tools to survive and shine. He learned early that a performance could be both a shield and a reward. If he could make someone smile, laugh, or clap, he earned a small victory in a world where attention was difficult to claim. John's mother was a guiding influence, helping him practice, exposing him to theater, and nurturing his natural gifts. She understood that her son needed more than encouragement. He needed an escape from a life that could otherwise feel confining. By the time John reached his teenage years, he saw 2 distinct paths before him. One was the life he was living: long hours, limited opportunities, and the slow fading of dreams. The other was the unknown, challenging, but exciting world beyond Englewood, one where he could pursue his passion fully. It was not an easy choice. Leaving meant uncertainty, struggle, and the possibility of failure. Staying meant safety, but also the potential death of his dreams. At just 16, John made the courageous decision to leave home and chase his dreams. He dropped out of high school, not out of rebellion, but out of necessity. He believed that remaining at home would suffocate his potential and dreams. With only about $150, a small suitcase, and a strong belief in himself, he headed to New York City. The city was nothing like Englewood. It was massive, loud, cold, and unforgiving. Success was not guaranteed. For months, John struggled. He slept on friends' couches, chairs, and sometimes even floors. Meals were skipped when money ran low, and transportation was often on foot. Auditions seemed endless, and casting directors barely noticed him. He was too young, unknown, and invisible in a city full of hopeful actors. Yet even during these moments of extreme challenge, John relied on a skill he had learned in childhood: the ability to appear confident and happy, even when fear and uncertainty were overwhelming. Slowly, John's persistence began to pay off. Small roles came first, followed by slightly larger ones. Television offered him exposure, which helped him gain recognition in Hollywood. Then came Saturday Night Fever, the movie that would change everything. John became an international star almost overnight. The world saw a young man full of confidence, energy, and charm. They saw the dance moves, the smile, the performances. But behind the glitz and glamour, John maintained the same habit he had learned as a child: hiding personal pain behind a public face of joy. This was the beginning of what would become his double life, a life in which one side was bright and energetic, and the other was private, quiet, and sometimes heavy with emotion. The early years of fame were both exhilarating and exhausting. John learned quickly that Hollywood demanded perfection, consistency, and a public persona that rarely reflected reality. He became known as the smiling, energetic actor, someone audiences could rely on to deliver entertainment and inspiration. But inside, he was still navigating the uncertainties of life, the struggles of youth, and the pressures of expectations. He carried the lessons from his childhood into his adult life. Attention and approval often had to be earned through performance, and the ability to smile through hardship could make the difference between success and failure. John Travolta's story at this stage is not just about fame. It is about the resilience, determination, and emotional strength that allowed him to survive and thrive in both a demanding career and the private challenges of life. As John Travolta's fame grew, so did the perception that he had everything. To the world, he had success, wealth, admiration, and opportunities that few could imagine. Movie after movie turned him into a symbol of joy, confidence, and fun. People assumed that his life was perfect. They saw him dancing, smiling, and entertaining audiences across the globe. Yet fame, money, and recognition could not protect him from the pain that life quietly brought. Behind the public image of happiness was a man who endured profound personal losses, each one shaping him in ways the public rarely saw. In 1991, John married Kelly Preston, a talented actress and the love of his life. Their marriage was warm, playful, and supportive, and together they created a family that appeared, on the surface, to be the ideal Hollywood couple. Fans admired them, seeing a strong and loving partnership. But behind closed doors, life was far more complicated. In 1992, the couple welcomed their first son, Jet. From the beginning, Jet faced health challenges. John and Kelly made the decision to protect him from the public eye, to shield their son from the scrutiny and pressures of fame. Their love for him was fierce and protective, but even such love could not prevent the tragedies that were to come. In 2009, tragedy struck in the most unimaginable way. Jet passed away suddenly during a family vacation. The loss devastated John and Kelly, shaking the very foundation of their lives. No parent is prepared to lose a child, and John was forced to carry grief in a world that expected him to remain cheerful, productive, and visible. He returned to public life with grace, attending events and giving interviews, but the pain he carried was immense. The smile he had perfected as a child became a tool for survival, hiding anguish behind a calm exterior. Even those closest to him saw only fragments of his sorrow, as John understood that grief, unlike fame, was intensely personal and private. Years later, another heartbreak arrived. Kelly Preston was diagnosed with cancer, and for 2 years, John lived a double life more intensely than ever. Publicly, he continued his career, attended events, and engaged with fans. Privately, he watched the love of his life battle a disease that gradually took its toll. In 2020, Kelly passed away, and once again, John faced the profound emptiness that accompanies the loss of a loved one. He had endured the death of a child, the loss of a spouse, and the gradual passing of other family members. Despite these challenges, he continued to fulfill his professional obligations, maintaining the persona that the world expected while carrying unimaginable grief behind closed doors. This period of John's life reveals the true meaning of his double life. Unlike a scandal or secret, it was a life split between private sorrow and public performance. The contrast between his on-screen joy and off-screen grief is striking. Audiences saw a man full of energy, humor, and charm. Yet, in private, John was navigating profound loss. Each smile at an event, each performance on screen, was underpinned by the resilience that comes from experiencing and surviving heartbreak. John's story teaches that strength does not always appear as action or speech. It often exists quietly, in the ability to keep going despite pain, to continue showing up for others, while nurturing personal grief in silence. Even as John experienced these hardships, he continued to pursue his career with dedication. Roles demanded energy, humor, and lightness, and he delivered them masterfully. His public image, though joyous and charismatic, was never disconnected from his humanity. He understood that his work meant something to people, that movies could bring comfort, laughter, and escape. And so, he chose to live in both worlds simultaneously, giving joy while carrying grief. This dual existence is what makes John Travolta's story compelling and deeply relatable. It reminds us that even those who seem happiest may carry burdens unseen by the public eye. John Travolta's story is one of extraordinary highs and devastating lows. Born into a family that valued performance, he showed early signs of ambition and talent. From a young age, he was determined to pursue acting, dancing, and singing, even though life did not make it easy. He moved to New York as a teenager, sleeping on hard benches, eating little, and taking any opportunity that would bring him closer to the world of performance. His persistence was remarkable. Small television roles gradually led to bigger opportunities, and by the 1970s, John's talent began to shine in a way that captured audiences everywhere. Welcome Back, Kotter, a television show in which he played the charming and rebellious Vinnie Barbarino, made him a household name. His charisma and natural charm attracted fans, making him one of the most recognizable young actors in the country. But fame was not easy to handle, and the path to true stardom was full of challenges. It was not just about talent. It was about timing, luck, and choices. John made decisions that seemed minor at the time, but would later define his career. Some choices propelled him forward, like starring in Saturday Night Fever, which showcased his extraordinary dancing skills and charisma, turning him into a global icon. Others, however, became missed opportunities, as he declined roles in films that later became legendary, such as American Gigolo and In Officer and a Gentleman. These choices, while understandable at the time, showed how unpredictable Hollywood can be. Yet nothing could prepare him for the career revival that came with Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. When the film premiered at Cannes, the audience erupted in applause for 6 straight minutes, and John felt as if he had returned to life on the big screen. The acclaim was overwhelming. His second Oscar nomination was not just recognition, it was vindication. The boy who once slept in hallways and took tiny roles had not been wrong to believe in his dream. For the first time in years, John felt that his talent and hard work were finally acknowledged. But even as he basked in triumph, the cost of fame was clear. Hollywood is a world where success comes with pressure, and the shadows of failure are never far behind. After the victory of Pulp Fiction, John's career was a mixture of highs and lows. He made choices driven by loyalty, personal beliefs, and passion, such as taking on Battlefield Earth, a film adapted from L. Ron Hubbard's novel. He had long wanted to honor the book and its connection to Scientology, an organization he relied on during difficult times. Yet the film, with its $70 million budget, earned only $29 million and became a critical disaster. Overnight, the man who had received 6 minutes of applause was mocked on television and late-night shows. The humiliation was public, intense, and unforgiving. Travolta later admitted that the ridicule hurt more than any failure, as laughter replaced attention and respect. Following this period, studios became cautious. Scripts that once came directly to him went to younger stars, and his paychecks shrank. From earning $20 million per film, he began accepting smaller projects, limited releases, and movies that rarely made headlines. Outwardly, he maintained composure, but inside, he struggled with the feeling of being forgotten. It was a difficult reality for someone who had once dominated screens and hearts worldwide. John's story shows that fame is fragile, and in Hollywood, the line between admiration and ridicule is thin. Every choice has consequences. Every refusal leaves an impression, and every failure is magnified. His career during this period was a lesson in resilience, a reminder that even stars who shine brightly face moments when the world seems to turn against them. Yet despite these setbacks, Travolta's determination never faltered. He continued to act, dance, and take on projects, knowing that the journey was as important as the destination. This phase of his life also highlighted the duality of his existence, a celebrated public figure and a private man quietly battling disappointment, loss, and scrutiny. While John Travolta's career had highs and lows, his personal life was a mixture of joy and heartbreak. One of the most significant events came when he was just 22, during the filming of The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. It was on this set that he met Diana Hyland, a celebrated actress, nearly 2 decades older than him. Diana became more than a co-star. She was his first true love, someone who showed him the meaning of deep, healing affection. Their connection was tender and profound. Simple acts, like leaving flowers at her door or sharing long late-night conversations, became symbols of their love. John felt a sense of home and belonging that he had never known. Diana, despite her public warmth and vibrancy, was quietly battling breast cancer, a truth she concealed to protect John from pain. When he discovered her illness, he stayed by her side, offering support, reading scripts, and humming melodies to bring comfort. Their love was pure, intense, and tragically short-lived. On March 27, 1977, Diana passed away in John's arms. He was only 23, and she was 41. The young man who had once carried hope and hunger for success now faced a loss so profound that words could not capture the grief. He wore the white suit they had prepared for a future together to her memorial, a symbolic gesture reflecting both love and heartbreak. The pain did not end there. Only 20 months later, John faced another devastating loss, his mother, Helen Cecilia Burke. She had been his first supporter, the one who had placed scripts in his hands, the person who had seen his talent before anyone else. Her passing compounded the emptiness he already felt after losing Diana. These personal tragedies, layered on top of public scrutiny and career struggles, shaped John into a man of resilience, someone who learned to carry grief while maintaining a public persona. Yet even amid these losses, he found ways to transform pain into performance. Dancing in Saturday Night Fever or acting in powerful roles became his method of survival. Every performance carried traces of personal grief, turning tragedy into art. Beyond the heartbreak, John's private life also encountered pressures from his connection to Scientology. The organization, which he had embraced during periods of personal loss, began attracting controversy. Former members shared stories that involved him, suggesting control, secrecy, and loyalty that complicated his public image. While he remained silent, the speculation added another layer of pressure. Then came lawsuits and allegations in 2012, claiming sexual misconduct. Though all claims were withdrawn or dismissed, the media attention was intense. Headlines, talk shows, and social media spread rumors that shook the foundations of his reputation. Even those closest to him, like former pilot Douglas Gotterba, added to speculation by claiming a romantic relationship. Through it all, John faced the harsh reality of life as a public figure. One can never fully escape scrutiny, no matter the truth or the man behind the headlines. Despite this, he continued to perform, dance, and act, demonstrating a strength that few could understand.